discuss is far more important than the method we discuss. So that's fine. And I just hit the record button and I'm pulling up my questions. Let's start with, sir, who you are and what are you running for or running again?
I'm Stephen Smith, and I'm running for re-election to the East Contra Costa Fire District Board of Directors. I am currently the board vice president.
Okay. Wow. There it is. That's real simple. Now, this is going to be a strange question. I literally was just thinking about this while I was waiting, and it has to do with marijuana. As a crop, are there different needs for any type of fire-related issues, or is it handled the same way as other crops that we have currently?
As far as I know, there's no difference. Cropland is generally not a problem for us. We're more concerned with mitigating the weeds, not weed. And we're doing a very effective job on that.
Okay.
Really out there. So with any luck, any fire would not encroach upon cropland at all.
Okay.
And of course, it's nowhere near the challenge that a structure fire is.
Well, and that leads me to the next question because of how I understand, and this is going to be, crops versus homes and businesses. But from what I see, the other existing farmland is not as close to any residential or business areas as the proposed area is. And there's going to be another question related to that. Let me just throw it out there so you can think about it. And that is the fire district's role in the handling of any fire in that area. Because from what I understand, it's just outside of city lines, but I'm not quite sure what the fire district encompasses. And so I guess if you can answer that question first, then I'll go back to that type of fire or that type of issue because of the close proximity to homes as opposed to our existing agricultural places.
Mm-hmm. Well, first, to set some overall parameters, the fire district includes the cities of Brentwood and Oakley and the unincorporated areas of Bethel Island, Discovery Bay, Byron, Knightson, and all the way up into the Morgan Territory area. Our western boundary is the city limits of Antioch, and a road within Clayton we encompass 249 square miles. In addition to just plain land mass, we have about 100 miles of coastline.
Wow. Okay.
So it's a big district. It's long distances for some areas.
Right. And therein, I think, lies the problem that we'll drill down into regarding our existing fire stations. I won't say proposed, but I guess the ones that are in process. And then, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 9, 4, 5, 6, which sounds like a Star Wars saga, but that's however you guys numbered it. It's how you guys numbered it. So the proximity factor then, regardless of if it's in Antioch or Oakley or Brentwood, that particular farmland, proposed farmland, is closer to homes and businesses than our existing crops. So do you foresee that as a problem because of our housing and building issues?
Well, generally, when we have any kind of vegetation fire near structures, if we feel it threatens the structures, we initiate not just a vegetation response, but a structural response. So we're already well accustomed to dealing with that kind of situation, fire near structures. And we upgraded accordingly. And of course, it then gets what we can send in terms of engines to fight a structure fire, which right now is totally inadequate.
Yes, and that dovetails.
So
I'm so sorry, I interrupted you. Please.
No, so we're well accustomed. The dispatchers over in the Regional Communications Center, which is run by Confire, are well aware. Generally, the incident commander, if he sees that there's going to be a structure response, or if he already knows the layout, and our battalion chiefs are very familiar with the area, will even call for a structure protection response while he's en route to the scene. Or the first captain in becomes the incident commander, and if he feels it's necessary, he calls in a structure response. So we're very practiced at that kind of thing. All fire districts are.
No, and that's good. I'm just worried about ours. I'm selfish that way because of my house. Everyone talks about fire districts and firehouses. If you have the numbers available, because I think this is what people need to understand. How many, and we just use vehicles as a grand term, whether it's the big fire trucks, little fire trucks, and personnel. How many people and pieces of equipment are currently available to the district?
9 firefighters, a duty battalion chief, and 3 vehicles for 249 square miles.
Okay.
You can see our nightmare.
That's why I asked the question, because I know people talk about fire districts or the fire district and the housing. I think people have, I can certainly attest to this. I'm thinking, I was born in a city. So, and when I was a kid, I used to go and wash the fire trucks. So when I think of a firehouse, I think of 2 or 3 trucks, a big pole to slide down, and a whole bunch of people that are in there. You're talking about 9 firefighters covering that distance 24/7, 365.
You got it.
I really should end the interview right now because it's like, why are we even talking about? Okay, like I said.
Well, because we've been working very hard to tell our story ever since Chief Helmet came on board in 2017. It's a big job to try to educate the public about this. And we certainly appreciate any way we can, including your efforts to get the word out.
Oh my God. Honestly, what you described, sir, is what I would think one firehouse would be. Not 3, not over 250 square miles with 9 firefighters, essential workers. People put their lives on the line.
Mm-hmm.
You can fill in people, whatever you want to put in. Oh, well, that changes all my questions then, because that all by itself should be a reason why Well, I mean, why we as a community really need to think about this. But for you in particular, you are the incumbent. What do you feel? And whether it sounds like braggadocio doesn't matter to me, but what do you feel what is your greatest accomplishment to date? And if you had a do-over, which you actually might, yeah, come November 3rd, what would that do-over be?
Well, I think our greatest accomplishments to date, which I certainly fully participated in, was the drafting of the district's strategic plan. We have a very good plan to get out of this situation. We've been executing on it now for a couple of years. It was about 9 months in the making. All 9 members of the then appointed fire board were part of it. All 5 members of the elected fire board were part of it. It's a good plan. We hold ourselves accountable. We try to report to the board and to the public every quarter on how we're doing. It's supposed to cover from 2018 to 2023. And we've been working very hard on making that happen. A lot of it isn't visible to the public until very recently, but the amount of work to do the underpinnings, to do the studies, to draft the ordinances, to start up a fire prevention division from scratch in November of 2018 and have that a very robust effort going on right now. And we are doing more to keep vegetation under control than has ever been done out here. If we get we warn the landowners a couple of times. If they don't do the job, we just authorized another 11 parcels to be mitigated by our own contractor. And we will bill the landowner and place a lien on the property. So we're very aggressive, not only in the future, but in managing the present as best we can. And I'm very proud of what's been accomplished. It's not a personal achievement, it's a group achievement. It's the board, and we're a very strong board with very diverse backgrounds. Chief Helmick, who is amazing, and his staff. And of course, the firefighters who are, just running the wheels off their rigs and running themselves ragged, trying to hold the line until we can get more.
Boy, wow. I honestly, I don't even need the answer to the do-over question because as you're speaking, my mind is just, wow. I'm still stuck on 9 firefighters. I really am, because it opens up, for me anyway, in my previous interviews with some of your compadres right now, and then of course one who's running, the whole, well, I guess I'll ask this question. You talk about Knightson, Byron, Discovery Bay. I don't hear those towns in the dialogue when it comes to the fire district. It's usually Oakley and Brentwood, and sometimes it sounds like East Berlin, West Berlin, but we really don't talk about the other cities that you are also responsible for. How are they involved?
Those are,
Go ahead, please.
okay, sorry.
No, please.
They're unincorporated areas. So we deal with the county. The county deals on their behalf. So we have essentially 3 jurisdictions. that we're trying to get with the program on the upgraded development impact fees, on this community facility districts fees, Brentwood, Oakley, and the county. Brentwood is essentially there. We expect the county to be pretty well there within a month. Oakley's the problem.
Yeah, and it seems like, if various news reports are accurate, it seems like action needs to be taken, as opposed to somebody saying, yeah, action needs to be taken. It sounds more like action needs to be taken. It's all in the tone. And it's, yeah, all the squabbles, and I'll just use that term as a guy who has to vote in a couple of weeks, but all the squabbles, I don't even know why there is. With really, sir, all it takes is one real catastrophe to, I don't know, get the town together and say, oh yeah, well, by the way, this is serious. You have 250 square miles of responsibility. I guess I'm speaking more to my neighbors and the developers trying to figure out why this is an issue. But let's go back to you, because that is what this is about. Boy, not because everything's going to roll back. What are your current and future top, let's say, 5 priorities? And let's say you had a magic wand, no hindrance, money getting thrown at you by the bag full. What would be your 5 top priorities?
Well, the very top would be coming up with a funding solution for what we call our current deficit, which is 3 stations. We're working everything, watching Measure X. We're watching a couple of state propositions for possible new sources of funding. And of course, we are participating in the study about consolidation with Confire.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the key one. Find a way to get 3 new stations, which is what our current service level deficit is. So that's, you refer to them as 4 through 6. That's how we refer to them.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 priority is to have the necessary mechanisms in place so that every new development coming on from now on over the next 20 years provides its fair share toward building out stations 7 through 9, which is what, when we project the growth out here for the next 20 years, we will need 9 stations. We actually had a study done a couple of years ago based on where the population was, what the road structure was like, where we expected the growth to take place. And that has informed our developer impact fee study, our community facilities district fee study. Joe Young and I, who are the finance committee, have known for years that every new development, every new home was a drain on the district. We're trying to turn that around so that every new home contributes its fair share toward building the district up. And we've been very intensely doing that for the last 3 or 4 months.
Okay. And
So
5
we're actually
number.
closer.
I'm sorry, please.
We're actually closer on that than we are on 4 through 6. But you know, we're turning over every rock. This is rocks that we've turned over before. Just to be able to say we've gone back and we've looked real hard again. And this is how we see it.
Okay. Yeah, the whole 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, 4, 5, 6, 8. Hey, that's your numbering scheme. God bless you. Measure X. You could read the pamphlet and you can read social media. Of course, it is a tax. But it also sounds like, just based upon the whole 3 fire trucks and 9 firefighters, it is a tax that we truly need. But what are the details? Well, let me rephrase. Is Measure X a strictly Brentwood thing, or is this a county thing?
It's a county-wide sales tax increment of 0.5%. It's being billed as raising $81 million a year for 3 major areas: the county health system, the fire departments, and I believe more efforts toward the homeless. It's a general tax, which means that it can't be for specific things. The whole financing.
Okay. I'm sorry for interrupting, but when you say specific things, and you had mentioned that it's for, it's countywide, and I'll just focus on the fire part of it. So it sounds like that money, even if it's individually distributed in the county, East County, which I guess counts Concord, Martinez, Pittsburgh, we would all be eating out of the same trough, so to speak. Correct me if I'm wrong. So when you say specific, are we talking about the monies can't be geared specifically towards us because we need it? Or are you talking, what do you mean when you say it can't be directly distributed to something?
Well, let me get on my podium here.
Jump
the tax structure in the state of California is totally freaking insane. It really is. A general tax can be passed with 50% plus one of the voters, but it cannot be directed anywhere in the language of the tax. The minute you cite a specific requirement, it becomes a special tax. It requires a 2/3 majority, which is just freaking impossible out here in East County. Well, I've never seen it go really well in any other places except in very, very small homogeneous communities. So that's why it's a general tax. It goes into the general fund. Can't even begin to talk about how it's going to be allocated until after it's passed. When they came to us and asked for the Firebird's endorsement, there was a promise from labor and from our local supervisor that we would have a seat at the table to work on this. So, we're running on trust here. But again, we're open to anything that will reduce the burden on our own local taxpayers.
Right. No, and I appreciate you jumping on the podium because I am woefully ignorant. I will tell you, if I'm watching this or when I watch this for the first time, I honestly would sit there and say, well, why am I going to vote for this tax and hope that it helps me? See, I lean towards, and this is probably going to be the only time I show any preference to anything. I've been, pretty unbiased, but I don't mind spending a little extra money tax-wise. I don't. I may be in the minority in that, but I don't if it's going to help us out. That being said, if it sounds like our best case scenario is that promises are kept, and that's the best case scenario. So at least for this voter, now I'm rethinking Measure X, which is too bad because some money's better than none. But if we're paying dollars to get pennies back, but that's just my opinion. Yeah, I'm interviewing you. I let me jump off my high horse and soapbox at the same time. You talked about consolidation, and that was mentioned before. What, other than the actual, you Google what the word is, what does that really mean? And why, if it sounds like it makes sense, well, if we're consolidated, we're interlocked and everybody wins. Why is it so difficult to go in that direction?
Because frankly, our financial position is so bad that the assumption has always been we would be a real boat anchor and we would suck down Confire, which is a much better off district financially. And that's why it's never seemed like a possibility.
Yeah, but
now I think.
No, I'm sorry.
I don't.
We must have a time
Yeah, I don't
delay.
think
So I do apologize for stepping on you. I think we're about 4 seconds off.
Oh, okay.
So anytime I see a pause, I'm going to count to 4 and assume that I'm not going to step on you.
But when you're certainly not alone in having your doubts about Measure X. I doubt that it would get a majority out here. I imagine they're counting on the central and west portions of the county to carry them through. The last attempt to fund the fire district was mounted by the cities of Brentwood and Oakley with the utility user tax and an advisory message. And again, that would have been a general tax. It wouldn't have been specific. And we feel that that was the reason it was turned down. There was also a mistake in drafting that nobody anticipated, where it really would have hurt some businesses very badly. And at that point, it became obvious that the only real solution had to be put forth by the district itself. That's the only way the money could be guaranteed to go to fire to the district. We have 2 opportunities to do that: a parcel tax, which is goes to the voters, but as a special tax that requires a 2/3 majority, and good luck with that. What we're focusing on, but we are not fully committed to it yet, is a benefit assessment where we add up the benefits of having 3 more fire stations and apportion them out parcel by parcel based on several criteria. In that case, the parcel owners get the vote. Also, as a benefit assessment, it requires in terms of dollar amounts of assessed money, 50% plus $1, which we think may be doable. So that's why we're focused. And again, that goes just to the district. It can't be diverted anywhere else. So that is what we've been working toward.
All right.
And, you know, if it hadn't been for the pandemic, we probably would have gone this year. But the pandemic has upset a lot of people's plans.
Yeah, it did. Oh boy. Now you mentioned it sounds like it is up to the county fire district. I forgot what you called it already, but can't we put a ballot on that, for lack of a better term, forces us to consolidate as opposed to, I mean, because we're not the county, the government should not be a for-profit company. It should be, at the very least, net neutral. So if we are the poor redheaded stepchildren, and all you little, you XYZers, don't get on my case. It's little redheaded stepchildren. We know what that means. But if we are, why? It sounds like that really that should be the reason to consolidate, not the reason to keep it the way it is. Because honestly, and I said this to I think a couple other people that are running for office. If my house burns down, I'm suing all of you because all of you failed. And that's with great respect. I know you're doing the best you can, but at the end of the day, you currently, and in 3 weeks from now, you will, because I gotta be right with one of you guys, are going to be behind the wheel. And so, again, I guess I'm now pleading more to people watching this. We really do need to step up. If it sounds like you're doing the heavy lifting and you have a spotter that's just watching you, it's okay. Yeah, things got to change.
Well, first, we have a good relationship with the county.
Okay.
There are 2 government bodies that would have to approve a consolidation. The County Board of Supervisors, which also serves as the board of directors for Confire, and our board. And, you can't hold an election and force them to take an action. You have to convince them.
Well, wouldn't that where the ballot measure comes in? A ballot, like I guess like a Measure X, where it's we, the people of the county, demand consolidation. And I don't know. I'm not a politician, and this may be outside your wheelhouse. I'm just thinking, hey, there's a problem. Everyone knows there's a problem, but no one wants to seem to fix it. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but we're turning over rocks, and we're turning over rocks again. And it sounds like we need to dig a little deeper in the soil. And I'm back off my soapbox.
Well, again, I don't know if, an initiative, which would have to be a county-wide initiative, could force the supervisors to take an action like that. I frankly don't know.
Okay.
I think that's something for the constitutional scholars to work on. Practically speaking, if such an initiative were mounted, and would have to be throughout the entire county, the first thing the voters in Central and West County would say would be, what? You want us to take this on and diminish our own fire resources?
Yes.
I really don't get passing in that case.
No, and yes, I agree. The Concord, the Pittsburgh, you know, the maybe even Martinez, but those unincorporated places between here and Richmond, where there are, you know, the chances of fire are tremendous. I can't see them saying, well, no, because I'm sure they're in the same boat that we're in, that they have a district, and I'm sure the district is underfunded, have 3 firefighters and a dog, a Dalmatian, and then that's just about it. But like I said, this certainly is not in your wheelhouse. This is more for those who are watching this to sit there and say, yeah, why don't we find out about this ballot thing? You know, because it's, I know you're doing the best job you can, and you know, all the folks in the district. I honestly, I don't see any of you just sitting around saying, yeah, well, we did all we could. But maybe you have done all you could. So now it's up to us to do something.
Well, certainly we've been working hard. One of the reasons I was so late in getting in touch with you is we've spent about 3 weeks bringing in as many council, Oakley Council, Brentwood Council, Brentwood Mayor candidates in for a briefing to bring them up to speed, give them a copy of the plan, let them ask any questions they want to ask. And that team consisted of myself, President Ofdahl, Chief Helmick, and Fire Marshal Aubert. This is actually a follow-on for something I pioneered 2 years ago when I met with all 5 city council candidates in 2018 to make sure everybody had the same base of information about the fire district. So that's kept us very busy.
Yeah,
This whole battle with Oakley. This whole battle with Oakley.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This whole battle with Oakley and trying to expedite the vegetation management. The board meets once a month. In between the last 2 meetings, we held 3 special meetings. 2 to deal with the argument with Oakley and 1 to deal with accelerating the vegetation management program. So we've been busier than hell.
Sir, I still don't have any doubt. This is probably going to be a tough question to answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. You had mentioned that you brought in the existing council and candidates for the various offices they either hold or trying to hold, and you did it in 2018. So you have 2018 as a baseline. Did the candidates keep their word, or was it just blowing smoke to get elected? That's 2018. I'm trying not to ask you who is blowing smoke, but I'll leave that out. But honestly, 2 people talking, because these candidates, they want to stay with their butts in the seats. But if they're giving promises that they're not keeping, we really need to know that.
On the Brentwood side, they've done everything we've ever asked of them. And they've generally done it with 5-0 votes. Oakley is a whole different ball game. But I think Brentwood has really backed us. And of course, Brentwood itself the two, what I consider the principal mayor candidates, are also the ad hoc committee for fire. And President Ofdahl and Director Nash from our board are our ad hoc committee. So they meet quite a bit and quite often.
Okay.
Gus Vina, the previous city manager, and Tim Ogden, the current city manager, we have very good relationships with. Not only myself, but Chief Helmick and President Ofdahl work with them a lot.
Okay. No, and that's great to hear. And again, I am, well, if you want to volunteer names, I won't stop you. But I'm hoping honestly that those who see this, because I do the full thing, but then I edit to highlight certain portions of the interview. This particular portion, I'm hoping that our neighbors here in Brentwood will forward the links to our Oakley counterparts, because by omitting the fact that Oakley is not as stellar as Brentwood, and these existing candidates who are running for office basically were blowing smoke in 2018, leads me to believe that maybe they need some fresh blood, because if you're blowing smoke in 2018, it's a real safe bet you're going to blow smoke in 2020. That's just, and we're all tied together. So it's not a Brentwood thing, an Oakley thing, a Knightson, and so on and so forth. I wish it were, yeah, because then I think life would be a whole lot easier. And I've jumped on my soapbox way too many times today, sir, and I apologize for that. But fire really, I'm passionate about keeping my house. And so I appreciate the fact that you are, willing to take the questions. And is there anything, before we wrap this up, because you pretty much answered all the questions that I had and the community had, is there anything you'd like to tell our neighbors?
Mm-hmm. Well, we did talk to 3 Oakley Council candidates, and a couple of them I found fairly impressive. I think all the 3 that we spoke to would be very supportive of the district. In general, Oakley has been problematic for many, many years. The contrast on how Brentwood operates and how Oakley operates is very marked. We've kept the city manager of Oakley fully apprised of what we were doing. He knew what was coming from our side. And it wasn't until about 3 months ago that we began to realize that Oakley really was not on our side. Or at least the city manager and the mayor weren't on our side. And we've tried for a long time to work this out internally. We were getting nowhere. And when we began to learn of what had been done about the logistics center and what was being done about development in Oakley, especially commercial development, not going to pay its way toward this district's protection, we finally went public. We had very specific demands, complaints. Oakley's response from their mayor and from their attorney has been a lot of misdirection. It has really spoken to the issues as we see them. we're done exchanging letters. The lawyers are talking to the lawyers. Hopefully staff will be talking to staff soon. And they may even decide to constitute an ad hoc committee of the Oakley Council to talk to our ad hoc. So we're done with the, we said what we had to say. The public's on notice. We were not even sure that the Oakley Council members outside of the mayor really understood what was going on. So in essence, we put the entire council on notice as well as the community. So we're back now to trying to work things out.
Yeah. Well, and as I'm listening, I'm, of course, getting frustrated is probably the best verb to use without getting in trouble. Now, you called out the mayor specifically, and rightly so. I don't know if he's running for office this year. I really don't know anything about Oakley. I'm only learning about Brentwood. But it sounds like you can put together an ad hoc meeting in the next 2 weeks, or in the next 4 weeks, you can have an actual committee with fresh blood, not just in Brentwood, but in Oakley. You had mentioned there are 3 candidates that seem receptive. I don't know if you were talking about incumbents or those who are running. And again, if you want to,
They're all not,
I'm sorry.
they're all non-incumbents.
Okay.
They are non-incumbents.
Okay. And are they set up in districts like we are, or does the city of Oakley vote for everybody?
I think this will be the last election where Oakley votes at large.
Okay.
They are now under the gun from one of these attorneys who files the suits to force them to go to districts. I think they haven't gone ahead with it because of the pandemic, but it'll have to be by districts, at least starting by districts in 2022.
Okay. Well, that's good to know because, oh, sorry, please.
Yeah. Two
Okay.
incumbents are running.
Okay.
Kevin Roman.
Well, here's why I ask, because this is Oakley, it's not Brentwood, so this has nothing to do with bias now for Brentwood. But for those in Oakley, I urge you to vote. I don't know what the number is of council people you can vote in, but if you have incumbents that are hurting me, thereby hurting you, vote them out. And if you have a mayor that's hurting me, thereby they have to be hurting you, vote them out. Doggone it. Yeah, this is like I had said to folks, and then I will get off my soapbox one last time and give you the last word. But I look at Brentwood as our house. And in our house, we have 2 types of kids. We have the kids that live here. Those are elected officials. And then we have the neighbor kids who come in, who are the developers and, the folks that decide who's going to pay for what and so on and so forth. But this is our house. And I'm saying to those in our house, we just stop letting the kids play with the toys until they get along. So Oakley, it's your house. If the kids don't want to clean the house, kick them out. Bring some fresh kids in. And I'm now off my soapbox. Please, sir, whatever closing comments you'd like to have, the floor is yours. And after you're silent, I'll just say thank you and goodbye.
Okay, well, we can't concern ourselves with just Brentwood houses. We protect them all. So we represent the district. As far as the whole developers thing, our only interest is in getting to a point where all new developments will meet our standards for funding the district. And as I said before, we're there in Brentwood, we're close in the county, and we're fighting the good fight in Oakley. So I have to have a broader view than just Brentwood or Oakley. One of the things I have done this year is, rather than just here in my Brentwood gated community with the fire hydrant a couple of 100 yards away and the firehouse 2 miles away, I've actually gone out. There are 3 advisory councils for Bethel Island, for Byron, and for Knightson. And I've been going to them. Chief McCumber usually gives the operational update at the beginning of their meetings. I've been showing up physically for January and February, and since March virtually, and kind of briefing them what's going on the policy side. And of course, their interests are very different than people who live in Brentwood, but we have to serve them all. So I have the time and the inclination, so I'm trying to be a director for the whole district. And I really hope that that gets recognized. I have great respect for my fellow incumbent, Joe Young. He's one of the best detail men I have ever encountered. And he's done, again, a lot for the district, mostly on the inside. A lot of our fiscal initiatives were ones he started. And now that we have a staff that can handle it, they're taking up the load. So I hope we both get voted back in. I know he is as passionate as I am about wanting to finish the job. And thank you for giving me this chance.
Sir, thank you. And in this particular case, because I've actually interviewed all 3 of you, I know I got to be right that one of you is going to win. So when you're still in office or back in office, I wish you nothing but the best of luck. And if there's anything I could do to help you between now and whenever you stop, please, you have my numbers. I think that there are neighbors who are watching this that feel the same way, and hopefully they'll reach out to you too. It's been a privilege. It's been illuminating, particularly about the 3 trucks and the 9 firefighters. Boy, oh boy, that I'm so glad I asked you, because we talk about firehouses and I'm sure people have the same thought in their mind. 5 firefighters flying down a pole with a Dalmatian waiting to go. And that's not the case at all. So, sir, I'm getting ready to hit the pause button. I want to thank you again, and the pause